Mr. Adam, we're celebrating a big victory this week, coming in live and hot. Episode number 6. How you doing, man?
I'm doing real well. How about yourself?
Good. Let's start the podcast by raising our glass and making a cheers to, what'd you say, 31 downloads?
Yeah, we got 31 downloads after the first week. Congratulations to you, sir.
Cheers. I'm cheersing you virtually here.
Yeah. What do you got in your hand there?
I'm going super classy here. I've got a leftover Corona seltzer.
Okay, we're gonna have to talk about seltzer in a little bit because I got some things to talk about with that.
No, we should specify 31 downloads. That's for the pilot episode and episode 1. So we recorded these a little bit ahead of time. It's allowed us to kind of work out the kinks and figure out how to host these dang things and figure out the best workflow for it. So we're officially live as of a week ago now. 31 downloads.
Yeah, man. I was pumped. I thought we would have 2. Being like my mom or, whoever. And then, opened it up and took a look and it was like, all right, I'll take that.
And 1 5-star review. So if you guys are listening to this, you dig it, we don't think we're total knuckleheads, leave us a review.
Hey, I don't want to call you out, but it was actually 2 5-star reviews. But I mean, whatever.
I got to get on this.
I am drinking a... Dude, so in California, you can get Trader Joe's alcohol, not just wine. And I've been on the kick of the Trader Joe's Scotch. It's not real expensive, and just like every girl in America, I love Trader Joe's.
Oh my god!
Oh my god! But this one is I normally get the 10-year-old Scotch. This one is actually a Scotch that's in bourbon barrels, and so it's got just a little bit of a tweak to it, and so far it's been really good.
I love that. Yeah, so check that out. Yeah, their prices are phenomenal. I don't want to go on a Trader Joe's rant, but I think I need to stock up on some stuff for next week.
Yeah, bud. Hey, okay.
How was your week? It's been, of course, 7 days since we last talked. I'm flipping down my sign, by the way. Every week I'm rolling with my sign.
Yeah, mine's dude. I say dude all the time, all day, every day. I got to work on that. It's just my go-to. But with that said, dude, my week was pretty awesome. We were the lady and I went to Palm Springs and got to hang out poolside in about 115 degree weather for a week with a couple other couples. Drank plenty of hard seltzer that I mentioned last week. I was cheersing you through the mic with my hard seltzer, my Truly, and it was a pretty fun week, man. Good people, just getting a little bit of hang by the pool time, a little sun on your face. The bartender was over serving a little bit, but one of the cool things was each couple did some cooking. So we did ours 2 of the nights, and then a couple of the other couples did the other thing, and so it was cool, man. So
that's awesome. So you guys were in an Airbnb then?
Yeah. So it was a Airbnb in Palm Springs, pool house. They had a whole nother apartment wing that was kind of off the garage, and so everybody was kind of spaced out pretty decently. We got the kids' room, which wasn't ideal.
Bunk beds or the race car bed.
Yeah, we had the hallway bathroom and kind of the smaller bed, and so that's not ideal. When the other couples had the ensuite and the big beds, so we felt a little bit slighted, but you gotta it's dart
across the hallway in the morning with that morning wood.
Yeah, well, without poking people in the face. Stop it.
Man, that sounds like a good time. We did another short little getaway down to the Strip. We stayed at the Delano. I'd never stayed there before. Beautiful resort, hotel, casino. It's still just kind of weird because nothing's 100% open, but it still is so nice to get away, and it's such an easy transition to disconnect and feel like you're in a different world. Because Vegas Strip and Vegas, the rest of Vegas is night and day difference. So it was fun.
Yeah. It was super hot.
It's good. Yeah, it's getting pretty hot, and we hit the pool for a little while and slept until I think a whopping 8 a.m.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That'll happen.
It's old people stuff.
Yeah. Dude. Okay. So there's my other dude. All right. So people vacation differently. Okay. Clearly, I think this needs to be a topic for the future, but we had a great time. However, people vacation differently, and
people
you get
move at different speeds.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And so what my wife and I, how we enjoy a vacation, we need some downtime. We need some leisure time. We like the slow mornings, get my coffee, get my breakfast, whatever. But and we need some pool time, lay around time, whether it's beach or whatever. You need that time. But we also have to have activity. So this trip, unfortunately, it was it was lava hot. It was 115 degrees, so it's hard to do anything. So really the activity that we did was we got a chance to go to Joshua Tree, which was pretty cool, but we had to leave at 5 a.m, in order to be able to do any kind of hiking and, checking out the sunset and all that kind of stuff. But, there's a lot of pretty cool things to do in Palm Springs that we just didn't do, because maybe the other couples like to sit by the pool the whole time. And as part of it, a group thing. And, we should have probably done a little bit better research to what's in that area. There's some old Hollywood history out there, but we just didn't. And we're kind of kicking ourselves because we were kind of like, we didn't really do what we wanted to do. We just kind of laid around, and laying around's awesome. But people vacation differently,
Yeah. Yeah, I admittedly have never been to Palm Springs. That's definitely on our to-do list, and I got to imagine it's probably pretty cost-effective given the state of the world right now.
Yeah, it wasn't a killer. Now, granted, we didn't stay at a golf resort and play a bunch of golf and that kind of stuff, but split the costs and brought a bunch of food because we could just drive over. Everybody else flew down, but yeah. Yeah,
my wife and I are the same way. We need a little bit of structure. We don't, there's some days where it's like, all right, this is our morning. We're going to sleep in. And we kind of like to know a little bit of trajectory where we're going. Otherwise, it feels like time slips away so fast.
Yeah,
for
sure.
And you forget what you're doing, and then next thing you know, it's time to go. So yeah, there's some mornings where we like to sleep in. There's other mornings like we got to know, all right, we're getting up the crack of dawn. This is what we want to do. Maximize the day. Come back, take a nap in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stand what do you guys want to do?
Yeah, there was a little bit of that.
It happens in groups. There's my first for the day. My wife and I were talking about the other day, like who's our ideal travel couples, who moves at the same speed, and you and your lovely wife are for sure at the top of our list.
That means a lot, man. Thanks.
Well, it's nice when you find, another couple that you connect with on both fronts. Sometimes it's awesome wife, awkward guy, or vice versa,
True.
But yeah. We'll have to plan some more stuff here too in the future.
Yeah, well, no doubt, dude. And actually, there's my seventh dude. But yeah, we got to do that together. It would be fun to do a podcast together, or we're actually in the same room.
We have yet to do a podcast in person. So,
all right, dude. There's probably the eighth dude.
We'll just rename the podcast, dude.
Dude, sweet.
Side note.
Yeah.
Side note. One of our clients. I'm not going to call this particular client out, but this client to me, I've known for about 1.5 years now. Good friends of ours. Client got a little bit cooler on the cool scale. Oh. Has the tattoo on her butt. To her.
Oh.
Dude, her friend has the tattoo on her butt. Sweet.
Oh. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. You're going to do... Oh, my Lord.
Unexpected. Caught me off guard.
Well, do they know where the car is?
Yeah. Luckily, I think they do. But yeah, it was unexpected, and it made my day.
Well, I am clearly stalling because I'm dreading today's list.
It was an interesting one. For the listeners, we put our wives to work. We figure we'd break up the list, the top 5 list for a short minute here. And since we're always talking about our wives, we figured we'd kind of get them semi-involved in the podcast. We put them to work. We had them put their heads together and come up with 5 questions total that we each have to take turns answering. And I think they did a pretty good job. I was kind of halfway expecting questions like 1 through 4 to be, why am I so beautiful? What's your favorite, but they did pretty good. They had some thought-provoking questions, and I did have to type out some answers because I do better in the written word. I think you're definitely more more better. That's my English.
Dude, I'm a little off the cuff. I do like a bullet point here and there, but yeah, I almost wanted it to just like you get the questions like 2 minutes before our podcast, and then you just have to ask me, and then I'd be like, oh, this is what it is. You know?
I'm glad we didn't though, because they put me to work here. I had to do some prep work. Not that it's tough to answer questions about my wife, but they definitely hit us with some thought-provoking life questions too.
Yeah. All right,
but
dude.
I did stick with my first answer on all my first
good.
initial thought.
Good.
I didn't go back and rework the list and whatnot. So
good.
How do we want to do this? Should we just run through the list and take turns answering the questions there, or do you see one that you want to save for last?
Man, I think we just go for it the way they wrote it. Well, let's just do it.
Sounds good. I've got the list in front of me. If you want me to go ahead and read the questions off, then we can take turns answering them.
Yeah, but I don't want to answer this one first.
Got it.
I was totally wussing out right now. All right. No, it's good. Let's do it.
All right. Why don't you read question number 1 and I'll answer first, and how's that?
Okay. I'm gonna do it in an imitated my wife's voice, okay?
Oh, careful. This could this
is gonna get me divorced. You know what? I'm gonna do it because my wife has an awesome voice, but I'm gonna do it in a very girly voice. Like, okay. So tell me your favorite trait about your wife, or what is the most attractive trait about your wife?
Very well done. Doesn't sound anything like Diana, but
nope, that's not her.
My favorite thing about my wife, my favorite trait of hers, again, this came right off the cuff. There was no second guessing. It was simply her pure, loving, optimistic, childlike, infectious spirit. When I first met her, I'd never met anything like that. I want to talk all day about how beautiful she is physically, but I was caught off guard with the spirit, because
okay, first of all, we can't. Yeah. Our wives cannot listen to this episode because you just did that.
Yeah, I'm setting the bar here. I'm taking a big drink right now.
Jerk. Okay, sorry, I cut you off. Keep going.
But no, when it comes down to like spending time with someone every single day for the rest of your life, and then even prior to COVID here, we were spending absorbent amount of time together. Being the fact that we both worked for ourselves, we both had odd jobs where we were together quite a bit more than most married couples. There was no, off to work, see you at 5. It was wake up together, go into the office together, maybe go out on a gig together, literally working hand in hand. So just being around that spirit and seeing how consistent it was.
Yeah.
How she carries herself, how she interacts with other people of all ages. That's the key thing too, is I like seeing people who, I don't want to be general. I like how she treats old people as well as young people.
Yeah. She has an infectious spirit regardless of who she's talking to.
Exactly. And it comes across,
awesome, dude.
Comes across really intense in some cases, and that's okay. One of the things I like about that is because she's so boisterous and flamboyant with her spirit, there's no guessing like what she's feeling. There's no guessing how she's thinking. It's right out there. And so I've never had to do less guesswork on, what's the problem? What are you feeling right now? What's going on? There's never any of that prodding and prying.
Well, she hasn't had to wear sleeves in years because her emotions are all over them, right?
Drenched.
Dude, that's awesome. What a great freaking answer, you jerk.
Now, we probably lost all of our listeners for this episode because it got so sappy. Let's get back and talk about cars and dirt bikes. And
yeah. Oh, my God.
It's important, though,
right out of the gate.
If you want to have a happy life, you want to find your soulmate, as they say.
All right.
Mr. Adam.
Yeah, good. I get to answer that one. Awesome. Okay. So
refill?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So my favorite trait. You're such a jerk. Okay. So I'm not going to change what I wrote. I'm not going to change it because, okay. So I am usually the sappy one out of the two of us. Right. But this is where, oh gosh, I can't believe. Okay. Here we go. So my wife has an RBF. Are you familiar with what that acronym is?
I don't think you're trying to say butterface because your wife is very attractive.
No, my wife is smoking hot, but this is a resting bitch face. So my wife has a resting bitch face. She is gorgeous. She is absolutely breathtakingly beautiful, but she has a look that can make me knock my knees terrified. And it is a scary thing. It is also the most sexy thing I've ever seen. And I guess I have kind of a thing for someone that looks like a bee. I don't know why I just censored that. I just already said it. But I love a strong, assertive female. And my wife is absolutely that. She is a strong, independent, brilliant woman who happens to be phenomenally gorgeous and has a look that can look right through me. So number one for me is my wife has a kick-ass RBF.
That's a phenomenal answer. That we might have just gained some listeners back after my sappy answer there, but that was phenomenal. Man.
Oh, brother. All right, number 2.
Well, let's do this draft style. So I'll read the question. That way you get a chance to answer first and kind of set the tone for the question here. And I'm not going to change my answer too.
Okay.
You go back to back on this one here. So question number 2, what has been surprisingly pleasant about your marriage? And tell the listeners how long you've been married.
Okay. So cool. Throw me on the spot to count the months on that one.
What have you learned in your long?
Yeah. So I got married on leap year this year. So 2020, February 29th, which is pretty cool. But okay. So what the most surprisingly pleasant thing about marriage, I have to say, is doing nothing with the person that you love. I had no idea that just doing nothing could be so awesome. And I mean, like, it doesn't have to be out at this fancy restaurant. It doesn't have to be out at this extravagant vacation. It doesn't have to be this. It can be sitting in the car. It can be at the grocery store. It can be sitting on the couch watching the movie. I can't wait to be done with work so that I can come and join her on the couch. Or can you please be done so you can join me on the couch? Or we're going to watch a stupid cooking show. Or we're going to cook dinner together. Or we're going to do this. Like, it's the simple little things could be so awesome with my wife.
That's a damn good answer. Mine's very similar to that.
Okay.
I do want to see in the coming years, I do want to see you work on your RBF. I don't think you got one.
Not with these dimples.
Solid, man. So mine's similar. The marriage, we found that you can truly make it whatever you want. You know, I found someone that we share the same core values, same priorities. That's just it. You can, there's no one else I'd rather be quarantined with. There's no one else I'd rather be stuck in traffic with. But what I mean by you can make it whatever you want it to is we decided early on that we never wanted to lose our childlike spirit. We wanted to live a fulfilled life, but not take ourselves too seriously. We wanted to always be present, keep open lines of communication. We wanted to make it just a good, safe space, no ego. You know, that's the one thing I think I've learned over the 4 years of marriage is that it's not so much about admitting that you're wrong, but also creating a space where you can make the other person feel comfortable admitting they're wrong.
Oh, good one. Yeah.
Not to get too sappy here, but that's been just fundamental. And making the marriage whatever I want is a big answer too, because there's so many things that we experienced. It was Jane's first time living outside the boundaries of mom's house. And so there were so many things that we encountered in the first 2 years, meaning even up until now, where you're like, I kind of like let her figure out like, hey, what's normal? You know, what is normal activity when living with a weird old white guy? What's normal when you're living by yourself? Like, staying up late, I don't want to do the dishes. We'll just let the dishes pile up. And then you kind of let things evolve naturally. Okay. So it kind of sucks when the dishes are all piled up, and then we kind of learn together, take turns, and just rather than jumping into this business contract, we're just kind of like, it gave us the freedom to kind of set these rules kind of as we go and just have some fun,
Yeah, which is such a good point too, because I mean, our wives happen to be of Asian heritage. Now, different flavors, right? Your wife is Korean and my wife is Vietnamese, and at the same time, as those cultures are so very similar, they're also completely different. And then also their upbringings were completely different as well, in the sense that my wife moved out at 17, and yours was with mom until you. And so there's a different degree of, mine is probably on the verge of incredibly too independent, and yours was probably a little bit more dependent on mom. And so those things and how we've had to mold ourselves and work together and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's freaking awesome.
It's been a fun experience. And I think ideally, we would love a house that's kept clean, that's kept polished, that's kept tidied up and organized and planned out, as thorough as your wife keeps your house. Or I'm gonna give her credit on this one.
Absolutely.
Because we saw her place before you guys moved in together. It was very, very well thought out and very well planned, very well kept.
Oh, but brother, you should see my house before.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous.
For the first couple of years of marriage, we cleaned up, but we definitely lived like college kids for a little while, and it's just kind of keeping that youthful spirit alive, just kind of learning, okay, if we want this perfect house, we kind of got to work together on it, because I don't believe in delegating chores. I believe in sharing chores, obviously.
Yeah.
So for like the first couple of years, if we didn't want to do the laundry, if we didn't want to do the dishes, it would pile up a little bit, and it'd be rough when we had guests come over, because it would be a mad scramble. But then it was kind of a fun learning experience together. Be like, okay, well, we don't want to do this mad scramble every time we have people over. So how about we slowly take time and do it gradually throughout the week rather than wait for the last minute. Just little stuff like that, how to cook food, how to clean up food. Yeah, my wife's a phenomenal cook, by the way.
That's, dude, way to go. You're just trying to get all kinds of brownie points because this is the only episode she's going to listen to. That's cool. Yep. Anyway, number 3. All right.
Alrighty.
Enough of the sappy stuff. What's number 3? Am I reading number 3? I'm reading number 3.
You read number 3, and I'm going to go back-to-back draft style here.
Okay. How am I reading this one? All right. Number 3. Nick, what is your ideal dream job? I blew that one. Okay. What was your ideal dream job as a kid? Or, no, part 2. So, remedial reading here. What was your dream job as a kid? Part 2. What is your dream job as an adult?
So I'm going to go deep on this one and kind of get a little therapy session here, kind of venting a little bit. Okay. As a kid, I don't think I really knew what was possible and what was available. We were very, very active, very happy kids, but I don't recall a lot of like dream and goal setting. Like, this is what you do if you take this path. This is what it looks like. If you take this path, this is what it looks like. And
that's an interesting point. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know if I had a dream job. And it sounds really, it fires me up every single day to this point. That's why I'm working so hard now in my 30s. There's my second there.
So not even I wanted to be a motocross superstar, or I mean,
even thinking about
little
that,
pipe dreams versus like a dream job.
Those are all pipe dreams. I knew those weren't 100% realistic.
Right.
This self-discovery kind of came about when, prior to Jane came around, I started taking on more jobs just to keep myself busy during the downtime. And so at one point prior to Jane, I was working 3 jobs and kind of exploring a bunch of different stuff. And I truly have worn a bunch of different hats over the years. But what I've found is, I love working for myself. I found I love building businesses, whether it's, a photography business, a fitness, client business, which was basically, self-employed more or less, because you're building your own clientele. I've worked outside sales. I've bartended. I had a meal prep company that I ran for a little while. And so I love just kind of figuring out, okay, how do you you take something, create something, make money from it, and make repeat money from it? And that independence of being able to make money aside from relying on an employer is fascinating to me. And right now, the biggest itch that's being scratched is the video and the photo production. I absolutely love that creative side of me. If I had to go back and redo my youth, I would have spent a little bit more time kind of understanding what you can do with your creativity and because I was pretty creative when I was younger. I was always pretty artistic, but I didn't spend a lot of time doing it because I'm like, this is never going to pay the bills. I'm not going to be able to pay the bills drawn.
This is a good answer, dude. But I think that this is running into, I think we're going to have a question that's very similar to this a little bit later. And I'm going to say, you didn't answer part one, and I'm docking you points. No, but I think your answer for your dream job as an adult is that you're kind of living it right now, right? I mean, am I wrong?
We're on the cusp. Yeah, that's one thing that definitely has evolved in the last couple of years is the independence. I love working for myself. I love carrying that burden. It is a burden because there's a lot of unknown. However, 2020, if there's anything that we've learned, is that we can't rely on a person for our income. We have to kind of diversify and just think outside the box. And that we've been blessed these last 12 months. We took a big leap of faith. Now, granted, we did, utilize quite a bit of savings, just kind of getting things up and going. But really, we've been generating money now for the last 6 months. And that's solely on what we've been creating. I say we, because my wife's very involved in that as well.
Yeah.
So I think my dream job in the future is just continuing to grow a sustainable business myself.
That's yours.
That's mine. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, great answer. I like that.
God, I'm getting a little sappy on this one here. Damn it.
No, it's good, dude. Today's show is a little bit different, and I like that. That's cool.
It is.
All right, so so believe it or not, like similar in the sense that like I love sports growing up, and like I wanted to be a professional baseball player, then I wanted to be a professional basketball player, and then I was a professional football player and all that. But I clearly knew that was a pipe dream. What's interesting is when I was, I believe, in third grade, so glasses, Randy Johnson mullet, Brian Bosworth lines up the side with a hypercolor shirt on, if you can visualize. Yeah, it doesn't get much cooler than that. Anyway, I was specific about it. I wanted to be an advertising executive, and I wanted to wear Armani suits. For some reason,
that's very specific,
dude. So specific. I had an idea of like, what's the best suits, as a third grader, and I found the name Armani, and I'm like, cool, that's what I'm gonna wear. Awesome. And how could I do that? Well, I like being creative. I like figuring out what people want and what's that look like. And I think we did like an exercise in school one year where we kind of fill out a bunch of questions, and then it populated what kind of field you'd want to be in. And I was like, what would make a lot of money? And one thing led to like hospital administration. And I'm like, yeah, that would be cool, because that would make a lot of money. And then I think my mom said something like, well, that would be, a lot of stress. You'd be managing an entire hospital and this, that, she got about halfway through the answer, and I'm like, okay, bored. Nope. But basically, before Mad Men came out, it was basically I wanted to be Don Draper.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was my dream job as a kid. And you know what? Believe it or not, out of college, a couple years out of college, I worked in advertising, and it was okay, but it wasn't everything that I wanted it to be. And I didn't work at an agency, and I didn't really do the creative aspect. I did more like needs assessments and talking about reach and stuff like that. And it was just snooze, but I mean valuable and important and all that kind of stuff, but it just wasn't the fun that I thought that what I wanted to do. And so it unfortunately kind of phased out, but my answer about what is your dream job as an adult it's almost identical to yours, where it's kind of this, dude. Like, I mean, if you look at what I'm doing, which is I'm doing a podcast with my boy. I have launched my own clothing line of athleisure fitness apparel, and I get to kind of consult with cool businesses. Like I am living my freaking dream. I just want to be better at it and more successful.
Yeah, scalability. Yeah, I think
Right?
we're both on the right path. It's just we're working on the scalability, and that kind of leads into the next question. Definitely.
Well, you better fire away.
All righty, buddy. So, with these entrepreneurial moves we're doing here, what is your greatest motivation or motivator?
Yeah. Okay. So this one's tough, and this one's a little punch in the gut, right? This is my punching my own ticket, because what motivates me the most effectively is fear. And that is like, you have two ways of motivating when you're a coach, right? So you either motivate with the carrot or the stick, right? If you follow my analogy. And unfortunately, my entire life, when it comes to motivation, because I feel like a lot of the times motivation is something that has to come when I don't have it.
Sure,
And
sure.
so fear generally, oh crap, if I don't get this done, X is going to happen. If I don't get that done, this is going to happen. I better get this done. I got to do this because of that. And it's a very negative motivator, and it's crap, and I don't like it at all. But it, in a volume play, it is what over my life has been most effective in doing the things that I don't want to do. It's always the stick, not the carrot. Now, when it is something that I really love or like or I'm totally into, like it's the act of doing it. Like when I think about wanting to be a basketball player as a high school kid, like going in the summers and shooting 250 shots a day, going to the gym and playing, like loving the work, like that is motivation. So when it's actually something that I really, really, really enjoy and really, really want, like just in the experience is the motivator. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it's fear, and it sucks. Oops. So, yeah, man.
No, that's funny. We always at least have one of the answers that's almost identical. And yeah, the first word on my answer for number 4 is fear as well.
No way.
And that's the fear of many different things. It's the fear of, because we've taken this entrepreneurial path. I've got to provide for not only myself but now my wife. And providing doesn't mean just paying the bills and keeping up on stuff. I mean, it means like, hey, are we saving for the future? Are we also still living for today? Are we taking the vacations we want to do? Are we, doing the fun activities we want to do? And the fear is urgency too. I always work better under a deadline. I don't know about you, but if I have to get something done in 20 minutes, it's going to get done. If I have to get something done in 2 weeks, good Lord.
Yeah. Yep.
What a waste of a couple of weeks there it is.
Yeah. You're right though, man. I mean, that happens.
But yeah, it's funny. Yeah, fear is a big motivator. Life's just too short not to be having fun along the way. And you hear those clips from old people, where they share their biggest regrets over the years, and it's always like, I didn't stop and smell the roses, or I wasn't present enough. I worked too much. So there's all these things too. My biggest motivation is just to be financially free enough to where we can enjoy each other, enjoy life.
Yeah.
And do the things we want to do.
Well, that's a really good segue into the 5th question. Do you mind?
Yeah.
All right. So, 5th question, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self? Or what is the greatest lesson you've learned in life so far? That's a good question, dude. That's a really good question. They did really well with this list.
These are phenomenal questions, and it's kind of a soulful podcast here. But this is stuff that I wish I did have the opportunity to tell myself back in the day. So my answer kind of has like a bunch of bullet points, and a bunch of subheaders too here. So
okay, I'll get my notepad out.
Yeah, take notes if you're following along here. I would have told my younger self my biggest lesson I've learned so far is I should have saved more money and taken more aggressive action when I was younger. Okay. So save more money, it doesn't mean that we're hurting for money. What it means is I remember all the stupid things I spent money on, especially even when I was living at the house. I know you're supposed to be a rambunctious kid, but when you're driving a 1974 Ford Maverick, you don't need, a $4,000 stereo system inside that, $800 car. Just dumb stuff like that along the way that money would have been quadrupled by now if you just would have saved about half that money.
Yep.
Take more action. This is something that I try to practice every single day, and it's something my wife is phenomenal at. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. That's the old expression there, but just being decisive when you see something that works, jump on it. If you need to say something, say it. If you need to stand up for something, do it. The subcategories under this whole topic for me is when I was younger, I would have told myself to pursue as many different passions and hobbies and find out what you like, find out what you don't like, figure out if you can make money doing it, but just explore a lot. Cause I was so headstrong into motocross, which is phenomenal. It's fun. That's gonna be part of my life, part of my hobbies for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. But just getting out there and doing, and granted, I did do quite a bit of stuff, but just I should have explored stuff a little more thoroughly, and really, I wish I had a different lens to look at things. What can this turn into? Can this turn into a career?
Yeah,
because there's so many things I did that I just kind of rid off as, it's just a fun hobby. This has never turned into something. So that kind of falls under the category of don't settle, be decisive. And then the least serious answer, exercise. I was pretty active growing up, but if I would have just told myself, exercise daily, do something every single day, not necessarily just for your body, but for your mind. Because, man, I've never had this much mental clarity in the last 6 months, with quarantine. I've got nothing else to do except work out every single day. And I wake up, I'm more focused this last 6 months than I've ever been in my whole life.
Dude, you had some really good points there, so I'm going to touch on them, but I'm going to hit mine first, and then I'm going to get back to them. If that's
for sure.
Okay, so what would I tell my younger self? So the biggest thing that I've got written down is go fail. Go fail at something, because what I always talk to maybe kids that I mentor, or my friends' kids that are more or less like my nieces and nephews, but I just say, go fail at something. Go try as hard as you can at it, and you'll learn, and so what if you crash and burn? You freaking went for it. And so that's what I would tell myself, is I was trying to play it safe so much.
For sure.
And I'm not saying jumping out of airplanes without parachutes. I'm just saying go try. I was so worried about and part of my, it's part of my upbringing. My mom wanted to make sure, you got to get salary and benefits out of college. And, it makes sense. Of course, do that. But at the same time, go try, go fail at a business, go get out there and fail, whatever it is, pursue the passion. If you fall on your face, you can always go back to school. You can always learn something. You can always try again. Just go fail at something. And so to your point about saving money, and I think your point of saving money is not being frivolous with it so that you have money for actual opportunity. And what I wrote down was cool is so stupid.
Yes.
Who gives
I spent so much money on cool.
Dude, who gives a shit about cool? How much time and money did we spend on cool? You know what I mean? And okay, so another point that you had was okay, maybe I didn't remember exactly how you said this, but in living in action and just going for it and being authentic in it, because I don't know if you've seen the movie About Time.
No, I haven't.
About Time. Okay, so here's my sappy part. So Richard Curtis, British writer and director, did like Love Actually and Bridget Jones' Diary, those ones. But he also did the movie called About Time, which is one of the most magnificent father-son type stories. And it's about a guy who, and I'm trying not to spoil it, but he gets essentially the lineage of the males in his family have the ability to go back and relive a moment. And from that moment on, essentially. So they're like, that time when I tripped when I was actually going to go over and ask out that girl, you can go into the closet, you can clench your fists, and you can go back to that moment and relive and be like, oh, I'm not going to trip over that this time. And then I'm going to go over here and talk to her this way. And the lesson that is told through that movie, and I'm not going to give it away, but the moral that you can take from it, you still should go watch it. But the moral is what you learn through that is you end up living your life as if you don't need the second time. You're just going to go after it. You're going to go the right way each time. You're going to go how you would answer it instead of trying to do the right way.
Move decisive and confidently. Yep.
And that's why I wrote that down from what you said. And then the other part that I wrote down from what you said, are you familiar with the Jim Valvano speech, Jimmy V speech?
I vaguely think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was dying of cancer, and he had a speech at the ESPYs the one year, and phenomenal coach. And if you aren't familiar, definitely check out the speech. But he talks about like a full day, and like laugh every day, like cry every day, like think every day. And it's like, if you can do those things, you're gonna have a full day. So
yeah, I mean, I get
those things
fired up now. If I
yeah, I was just gonna say
I
those
get fired up now if I go to
things.
those
Gosh,
things.
Dang it! Quit interrupting me. You go.
Love you. No, I get fired up if I go to bed and I feel like I've wasted the day now. That's something that really hasn't. It's something that's evolved in the last year or two. It's just, if I go to bed and I feel like I didn't fully maximize the day, I do feel a sense of failure and stress.
Well, yeah, I don't know that I'm quite there, because I can waste a day now. I can sit and I can binge some Netflix now, son. But you're right. I mean, if I think that's the biggest catalyst of why we did this podcast and why I launched a clothing line, all that kind of stuff. Because if I'm coming out of COVID and I'm not better, if I haven't improved, if I haven't learned, if I haven't pushed myself, I have wasted this time. And I think that's what's been really cool.
Well, yeah, even understanding that, the Netflix time is important. And if you utilize it right, it's definitely not a waste of a day.
Yeah, I mean, look, I just dropped some knowledge on About Time and Richard Curtis. So, I mean, that comes from serious time in front of Netflix.
Yeah, that's just self-care time and rehab time. That's a very important time. But no, you touched on a very good point there earlier about hurry up and fail. And that's another thing I think I would like to expand on, is explaining to myself that this is something that Tim Ferriss preaches over and over again, that the worst case scenario is usually not as bad as we have it cracked up in our head to be. And so he has the exercise to where if you're considering doing something, for instance, we did this with our move to Las Vegas here and leaving behind, a certain job and leave behind friends and family, just simply write out all the things that literally could go wrong. Every single thing, as trivial as it could be, write it out, and then realize, once you see it on paper, you're like, man, the worst case scenario, it was really not that bad. Worst case scenario in our case was just you pack things back up and move back home and just learn from it along the way.
Lick your wounds and you move on, dude. You heal up and you go forward. I agree, dude. I think, all right. So I took a shot to coach college football. I had a decent job. I was putting money away. I was doing my retirement savings, salary and benefits, all that kind of stuff. And I took a shot to go coach college football, and had to cash in some savings, and it was a volunteer role, and it was, one of these, you're working, 70, 80 hours in the off season, and you're sleeping at your desk during the season. Like, I mean, it was just grueling. And here was my everything was college football. Like, I loved it. It was a passion. I watched all day Saturday. I was watching and watching all the shows of the week leading up to it. And I felt like I knew as much as the commentators and all that stuff. And I just eat, drank, and slept college football. And then I went up and did it, and I wasn't very good at it, and I kind of hated it. And I pretty much failed at it. And the guys that I coached with are all making it now. They're all at big Pac-12 schools, or they've been head coaches. They're all over the place. They're doing really, really well. And it just wasn't for me. But that experience I reference constantly. Like, I talk about, like, really learning what I was made of. What does it look like to really freaking work hard and to work truly 90 hours a week on for a year, or, it was incredible. It taught me a lot, and it, punched me in the gut with something that I thought I loved, but I didn't love it like that. And so I think that was an incredibly valuable experience for me. So anyway.
No, that's good. There hasn't been a single job that I've had, whether I loved it or not, that I didn't learn something. And yeah, a similar situation. I had an opportunity to take a sales job working for the most prestigious, motorcycle company that I've been looking at my entire life. It was a very prestigious position, something that, people usually 15 years ahead of me would get. I got the job, and then a couple years in, I'd realized I absolutely hated it.
Yep.
I absolutely hated it. But there's things I learned in that job about how to work for yourself, how to schedule things, how to prioritize your time. And I still use, and I still reference those almost on a daily basis too, when I'm building my own business. And yeah, it's powerful. I always think about what could have been or what should have been. And I don't have any regrets about any of the career choices I've made. Yeah. But yeah, this sense of urgency and taking more action, I would have told myself, just be decisive.
Yeah, that's a good one. I love it. Dude, this is a good list. I mean, hats off to the ladies, right?
They got me thinking. They got me off of my, again, last week we were talking about dirt bikes, or a couple weeks ago we were talking dirt bikes and sports athletes and favorite music. This was a different one. And I'm glad we did it. I'm excited to get back to talking about guy stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of that, did you have something that you wanted to talk about?
Well, yeah, man. After this heavy list, I'm just trying to think about how I'm going to de-stress before I go to bed tonight.
Right.
And I love doing random things, and I was kind of curious to pick your brain too about what you do to disconnect. But oftentimes when I'm trying to disconnect, I'll find myself scrolling through YouTube, just going down weird tangents.
Sure.
Of stuff, and next thing you know, I've wasted an hour, but it's been a fun hour to kind of reset the brain. Whether it's I'm watching woodworking, or I'm watching ships launching, or something weird with a river that's forming. Just abstract stuff kind of really gets me jazzed up.
Now, did you jazzed up as in like you're all pumped up, ready to do something, or it's more tranquil and puts you down for the night?
It clears the memory banks, like the cache, like that temporary memory you have in your computer there.
Yep.
And I think that's why I loved when I was working 3 jobs.
Wait, I thought that was the reason for the in private browser.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't either. What?
But I think that's why I was having so much fun when I was working 3 jobs, is they were so drastically different. I was coaching fitness. I was cooking. Cooking's another thing that really helps me disconnect and helps me reset. I love creating something, cooking something where you start cooking something, and an hour later you either have something that's really good or mediocre, or either way it's a learning experience. And then the bartending was something that was really different and fun. And those are the 3 jobs I was working at when I met my wife. And
damn,
just having drastically different stuff to work on has always been something that
Were you working 27 hours a day? Like how did that happen?
It was pretty unreasonable for a while. And I look back at pictures of myself. I definitely looked quite a bit less stressed and more happy and more content right now. I'm not living off coffee and Red Bulls like I was back in the day, but no, it's good, man. That's good. What do you do to disconnect? Like, what's something random besides Netflix that you do? Do you have any weird hobbies? Do you fly kites or do you play harmonica?
Well, that's, I use one hand to fly the kite and I use the other hand to fly the harmonica. No, just kidding. So if you take away Netflix, it takes a big chunk out of it. But okay, so on Netflix, so sometimes I will go down rabbit holes with Netflix and I'll watch some documentary about this or that. It doesn't really matter. But so this is my old man thing that I started doing in LA because the weather's so beautiful all the time. Just rub that in to all the Pacific Northwest people out there. But the weather is so beautiful all the time. And when we first moved down here, small apartment in LA with my wife, as much as I love her, at the same time, it was time to just get out sometimes. And so what I would do is go on a long ass walk with my AirPods in and listen to a book. Like, I mean, and I would walk and I'd be like, oh crap, I'm 5 miles away. I gotta walk back. Shoot. There was actually one time where we had a miscommunication and she went for a run and I went for a walk and I was the one with the keys and she texted me like, and so like from one of my walks, I had to Uber home. So, I mean, there's those kinds of things. And I kind of get lost in it, which is, pretty awesome.
Fiction or nonfiction?
Dude, it's been almost 100% nonfiction. And I mean, except for maybe the Jim Carrey memoirs, and a couple of other ones that are, and it's usually autobiographies. It's usually, learning about myself or learning about a completely different, I had a book on marketing. I did a book, Gary Vee books is fun and, all that kind of stuff. Usually it has to be something that I have to learn. It has to pump me up. It has to kind of give me some love as well as like a feedback sandwich, like this is what you're doing wrong. But by the way, I did that wrong, but this is something you're doing well. This is something that you can work on. This is another thing you can work on. This is another thing you're doing well. And then, it's a nice feedback sandwich. But so I will do that. The other thing, you brought it up, but is cooking a bit. And the COVID has kind of forced that, right? We're all in quarantine. We can't really go out. And my wife's a foodie, and so it's stepped up my game. So like I have to, if I'm gonna cook something, like I'm boring, dude. I could eat chicken breasts and broccoli and I would probably look a lot better too. But I want her to really like the dinner. And so like she's a foodie, so I need to be like, oh, well, I better throw some of this in there. I better, I just the other day I bought a basil plant. I bought a rosemary plant because I use basil and rosemary so much. I'm like, shoot, I'm just going to grow this stuff. Like the fact that I'm going to use basil that I'm growing and then I'll throw in the cooking that I'm making, when I'm just zoning out, maybe listening to music or a book or something like that. Because cooking for me is something that I'm not necessarily very good at, but I have a couple of like staples. Like I'm all right at a couple of things, and then I can just kind of expand upon it. And then whatever happens after the 45 minutes that I'm in the kitchen, hopefully it's edible, and hopefully it I learned a thing or two. Versus my wife, who's a baker, or that's her way of doing it. She will jump in there and she needs a list and rules and she has to follow all the directions and she has to do that. And I hate that. I don't want to get in there and be like, oh, I have to measure this exact amount and then I have to mix this exact amount and then I have to put it in the oven for this exact time. Like that sounds like work to me. I don't want to do that.
I ran a food blog for a while when I was doing the meal prep business because I wanted to reach more people, and the goal was to start getting some affiliate money through that. And it started to get traction. But one of the things I hated doing was I hated writing recipes. So I'm like, shoot, okay, so I got to go back and something as simple as how do you cook really good ground turkey? I had to go back and measure out all the stuff that I'd just been winging for the last 2 years, and it was such a pain in the butt. I don't think you should measure. I don't believe in that.
Right. I agree. Like
a dash of this, a sprinkle of this, and
right. Is it better this time? Well, good. Because I put more of that in it. Cool. How much more? I have no idea.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest blunder as far as cooking? Like, have you butchered something completely? Because I know I totally.
Oh, dude. Yeah. I did like so very rarely has me. So I've tasted it and then like that's trash and then thrown it away. But that happened, and I did. So I did Blue Apron a couple of years ago just to kind of get a little. And what's cool about Blue Apron is that it gives you all the stuff that you need, and then it kind of teaches you how to do it. And it teaches you some skills as you do it, and you try some things you wouldn't normally try.
Right.
So that, I mean, for me, as a single dude in my house, it worked out beautifully.
This episode sponsored by
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Send the check. No. So I learned a couple of things there, and I tried to redo one from memory, and I think I put in like way too much vinegar or something, and I was like sauteing a vegetable or something, and I took a bite out of it, and I was like, that is rancid, and I was apologizing, because I'm like an old man when I'm in there. Like I'm talking to myself and I'm swearing and I'm constantly like, where the heck is this thing? And why is this? I'm such an old man in there. And she's like, oh my God, you're stressing me out. Cause she can hear me from the other room and she's just like, what is wrong? And I'm like, nothing. Everything's fine. Everything's good. I'm just, I just kind of putter,
Why is the smoke alarm going
right.
on?
Yeah. Well, it was one where I'm just like, you're not getting a vegetable tonight. I threw it in the trash. So yeah, really, that was the only blunder.
Goodness. Yeah. I remember the very first time I cooked for my wife, I had her over for dinner. I hit one of my go-tos. It was just simply steamed mussels and clams.
Ooh, that's a go-to? Damn,
yeah,
boy.
And it's kind of my classy one. It's white wine with some butter and some garlic, some herbs and whatnot, and you serve it over linguine. So I got kind of cocky. I'm like, I got this. I've done this, a few times here. This is easy. I'm like, I'm a fitness guy. I was coaching fitness at the time, so I'm like, I'm gonna swap out the linguine for spaghetti squash and go extra healthy.
Yeah.
And so they always say, like, you remember eating, like when you were a kid, maybe eating rum cake. Did your grandma ever cook that? Rum cake. Yeah. You ever act like you were drunk when you're like, oh yeah, hammered off rum cake. They always tell you that alcohol burns off as you cook it.
Yeah,
it does to a point. So I butchered this meal so bad. For some reason, I added way too much wine to the point where it actually didn't boil off. My now wife admits that she was feeling intoxicated actually from the dinner, not just the what we were drinking. So God bless her heart, she finished the whole thing. Spaghetti squash was a disaster in there because it soaked up all the alcohol. So everything we ate was, then soaked
just
in the
pungent. Yeah,
just pungent. That's probably, I butchered that the worst. I think I ended up overcooking the clams too. So everything was like eating dried rubber cement.
So you just brought up one that is exactly the same mistake that I've made. So oh gosh, dude. Okay. So not exactly the same mistake, but a very, very similar mistake. And so my wife affectionately refers to herself as a side chick because she always likes the sides. I will make a beautiful, like reversed seared ribeye that is just buttery and amazing, and she'll be like, what's the side? And I'm like,
this is the masterpiece.
Are you freaking kidding me? Right. And I'll like forget, I'll be like, I don't know, I didn't do anything, Well, she's pretty awesome actually. When we go shopping at Trader Joe's to grab those little frozen packets of things that you can make pretty quick and it's all good. And those are like the little sides of like gnocchi or rice or whatever. It doesn't matter. And because clearly I don't care about sides. But she got these ones where it was like cauliflower gnocchi. And I'm like, okay, well, I've done these before. It's fine. I'll do that. But I'll get going in it, or she'll hand it to me. She says, here, just do this one. I'm like, okay, cool. I can do that. And then I read through it as it's cooking, and it's like, yeah, just add your favorite sauce. And I'm like, what? I don't have a favorite sauce.
Barbecue sauce or ranch? Does that count?
Right. So I'm like, okay, never done a wine sauce. Guess I'll try that. And needless to say, it went down the same route that you did, and it was just gnarly. So she ate a good third of it and was like, yeah, don't do that one again. But most part, she's super sweet, is a good sport, but that one was pretty bad.
Makes for a very unromantic night when you both got indigestion and gas.
Yeah. Okay, so this meal was gross.
That's funny, man. The wife episode, dude. Episode 6. This has been a heartfelt one and kind of a soul surgeon one here as we talk about motivation and careers and goal setting and whatnot. It was a very heavy one to prep for. I know I'm ready to get back to talking about guy stuff, man.
Okay, well, segue. The next week, I don't know that it's super guy stuff. I mean,
I think it is though. Okay. I mean, it's non-gender specific. Do you want to tell the people what we got lined up for next week?
All right. So next week is our top 5 role models. Now, these people do not have to be alive, so dead or alive, but our top 5 role models that we would like in our life.
I like that.
Yeah?
That's a solid one. Yeah. Dead or alive kind of opens things up too, although I don't know too much about referencing too many dead people because, I mean, you never know too much about their faults. And I'm also scared too. I'm like, who do I want to pick? I want to make sure I pick someone that hasn't been canceled or isn't on the verge of getting canceled because we live in the cancel culture now. Yeah,
but here's the thing about that. You can defend your answer and you can't, I'm not looking to Tiger Woods for marriage advice, but he's a kick-ass golfer and I might want to know some golf tips or how to be a fierce ass competitor. So anyway, so you can kind of make it what you want because it's a fantasy world, and what's going to happen anyway is, I mean, if they're dead, you're not going to have them as a mentor anyway. So it's going to work.
Role models. I like that. Episode 7 is going to be role models. Top 5. Getting back to the list. I like this a lot.
Love it. Hey, great work, man. What's this podcast called, dude?
Next week's podcast or this week's podcast or the whole thing?
The whole thing. What's it called?
This was the wife episode of the PowerFall Project.
Nice work, dude. You did a great job.
We'll see if we'll report back next week and see how our marriages are doing after our answers. And we look forward to getting back to the list and getting forward to getting you guys involved in the list.
Hey, man. Take it easy. Great job. We'll catch up with you next week, brother.
Thanks, brother. See ya.
Right. Later.